Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to Phil's Corner Live. As we begin, I have a question for you. Is the fan too loud? I've got the fan on behind me, and yeah, it's blowing pretty much directly into the mic. So please let me know in the chat if it is indeed too loud, because I can turn it off if so. But it is nice and sunny still here in the UK. Excuse me. And yeah, the fan is much needed. But welcome everyone to our show. Welcome to our Thursday afternoon slot here, where we are ranking the latest shirts. And of course, as we've been doing the last few times, we're live on X, we're live on Twitter as well as YouTube. So welcome to our Twitter viewers. I somewhat clumsily have attempted to add the number of views there at the bottom of the screen. That was the best solution I could find in the short term. So obviously not the most elegant solution, but you can see on the bottom left there, that's the number of views coming in from Twitter. But welcome. Hey Ballum, good to see you. And Matthew says, hi Phil, hope you're alright, mate. I can't hear the fan, but I do have mine on full blast as well. Well, that's good. As I say, it's literally just there, you know. So I can't even point there. That's good. So the mic is doing its job. Says we can't hear your fan. You do have fans, Phil. Much appreciated, pal. Appreciate your support as always. But welcome. As the guys are filtering in to the chat, of course you can join the chat either on either platform. So if you're on X, if you're on Twitter, simply click on the card just below the main stream window, and then you'll see a chat facility on the right, and I'm just going to put a message in there now, so you can join in again, as you can see through the chat facility on X, as well as YouTube. So if you're on YouTube again, you'll see the chat there. Either works. I'll see you the message, so do join in. And of course today is going to be a fun one because we're ranking shirts and we are in the middle of shirt release season, so lots of shirts to rank. And yeah, Balam, warm sunny day in England. It's been warm this week, which is great. Certainly can't complain about that. But it does require a fan because we're not too accustomed to the heat in this country. As we get started, as people filter in, I do want to say again, welcome to those, particularly through X or Twitter. If you are new, maybe you're watching this, you're just, you've come across this stream and you're not sure what we're all about. Well, we are a channel here all about football shirts, particularly diving a bit deeper into kits, whether that's collecting kits, kind of talking about how to find shirts, and indeed on Tuesday evenings we have an evening stream where we jump on eBay and find the latest kits, or try and find, I should say, bargains. And indeed, if you are not subscribed to the channel and you are interested in some more football show content, do please consider subscribing via YouTube. That would be much appreciated. And if you want to go even further, I have a Patreon, and the Patreon has a bunch of different benefits. Best of all, really, you just get to be part of a community, a growing community of people from around the world, which in itself is a great opportunity just to meet people. And indeed, you can also do things like if you're trying to find a shirt from a particular country, where we've got people all over the world, and again, they can help kind of proxy and receive shirts to send on and that sort of thing. So there's all sorts of benefits, but do check out that. The link should be in the description of the YouTube video, I believe. I don't think Twitter has the description anywhere. But nonetheless, let's get to the hot wall. Balance says Manchester City were fine for Premier League second half, arriving late to kickoffs. I didn't see that. Is that news today? Yeah, that's something I didn't see. And Bal also saying, stranger than prefer summer. What about you, Phil, and everyone else? We both like to complain about weather. Enjoy the same days because we hardly have them. We do not have many of them. I'm a big fan. This is going to sound funny. I enjoy winter as long as you're prepared. As long as you've got the right gear, the right clothing. I'm a bit of a winter fan. But I mean, I like any. I like the summer as well. But yeah, honestly, the winter, despite all the rain and what have you, and maybe that's why I chose to move to the north of England. I don't know. Right, let's just reorder my windows slightly so I can get you on the left there, and we will come to the hot wall. Now, crucially, for this latest iteration, this latest edition of the hot wall, I've decided to streamline things and remove the brand section. I think it's not the most intuitive. The fact that, for example, if a brand only has one or two shirts, that very much changes their position on the ranking. We had Reebok up here, but that's because we'd only ranked one Reebok shirt. And I think it also heavily impacts some of the bigger brands. So in short, I've decided to remove that section. I mean, the data's still there, the names are still there, but I think it will also help us get through more shirts. One thing which I'm conscious of, we simply do not rank enough shirts because there are so many. So I think not having the brand section should help us. That's my own thinking. Obviously, I'd love to hear your feedback from anyone if you liked that aspect of the tier list. But as I say, for time's sake, I want to power through as many kits as we can, and I'm gonna try and up the pace because again, we still have many shirts to catch up on. I think if we can catch up with where we were last stream, I'd be really happy. And that was, where was it? I think we got as far as it was like United, wasn't it? Let's just see. We can actually look at our last list. So here was that. That was Roma. I mean, we kind of cherry-picked our way through, didn't we? We had Barca. There's United. So I think, again, if we can get to United, I'll be happy. But we'll see. We'll see how far we go. Let's start with Roma's away shirt. Now, Roma received a lot of praise for their kits last year, and I think the general kind of feeling around Adidas and Roma's partnership was quite strong going into the partnership. I think in reality they haven't quite hit the heights we'd want them to hit, and we talked a lot about this on the Roma home shirt review. I think the away brings some interesting things to the table. Certainly the way it's using the template here is quite interesting, and I think the crest style and the application is something I don't believe we've seen before. Maybe this is an old style with the kind of broken up circle around the Lapetto, the wolf's head, but that's quite interesting design. Ultimately, though, I think this is a case of not enough going on here in terms of the inspiration behind the design. Hey, Daredevil, good to see you. The inspiration behind the design, I believe it's based or kind of inspired by street art. So what's this? The Stacchio, however you say that, district. There's a kind of street art inspiration, I believe. Ultimately, I don't think this really does that. Does that. What's the phrase I'm thinking of? Does that service? Yeah, I'm struggling to speak today, but you know what I mean. Honestly, I don't think it really is close enough to that source of inspiration, or at least if you're going to go for something inspired by street art, this feels to me like the start of a good idea, but I'd like to see a bit more in the way of detail, in the way of potentially some more colours there. It feels like a good base to work on, but ultimately I think it's a little bit too underwhelming. You've already gone down this route, and that's the thing, right? We had the home shirt, which was quite reserved, had the pinstripes, there were some nice elements, whereas with this kit I feel like when you're already going down this sort of artistic direction, you've got license to do something a bit more creative, and it doesn't mean it has to be busy, doesn't mean it has to be crazier, but I think this feels half finished to me. It has that kind of feeling, and the thing is, I like the idea, I like the approach, I enjoy seeing this Adidas template worked with in different ways, and it has largely produced quite interesting designs, but I think there could have been so much more here. I even don't mind the palette of it, and there's a detail on the inside neck. Even the crest is interesting to see some of that kind of spray splatter design actually onto the crest. I don't hate that, but I think it's just ultimately a great idea that's been undercooked. That's my feeling. Hey, JPR. So I'm going to stick this one, I think, in the candle tier, and I'm thinking something kind of in the middle of the candle tier, not super high. Ultimately, I'd say that, again, between the home shirt, which we talked about last show, I think I'd take the away over that home, certainly, but it is not the best combo of shirts from an Adidas team, and it's a shame because Roma, of course, are a massive club and potentially a really exciting club in the world of shirts, but I think we could do much better here. Daredevil says Adidas disappointed recently. Yeah, I mean they have so many shirts that ultimately I would not be expecting them to maintain some of the kind of standards they'd set themselves, but yeah, definitely underwhelming here. Just catching up on the chat. Bound says field prediction for San Marino versus Liechtenstein next month in UEFA Nations League. So I lost your message there. I'm not sure, even though it sounds like I have. Could San Marino finally win a match? I mean, I don't know how good Liechtenstein are, but I would probably bet against San Marino if I was a betting man, as harsh as that is. But hey, if they're going to do it, why not? Why not? Balance says also some people like San Marino's kits. Would you collect its extra kits and wear other countries' kits as some like them? Yes, I don't. I typically favour club kits, but I definitely would collect international kits, and I have over the years. And there wouldn't be many teams I wouldn't wear. I probably wouldn't wear an Australia kit. That's the Kiwi blood in me. But yeah, I definitely would be open to that. I'm generally quite. I mean, I've even collected kits from rival club sides over the years. I tend to sell them on. I don't tend to keep those ones. But yeah, interesting question though. Are there nations which you guys wouldn't collect shirts from? Would you collect international shirts at all? Would be very interested to hear. Dead of saying 1 week counter. Yeah, I think it's kind of a 1 or 2 week. I mean, you know, it's definitely in the pack there, but it's not doing enough to separate itself. Now we come to Bournemouth, and we will not see many worse sponsors this season. You know, we've seen, of course, betting sponsors are. It's funny, despite the impending ban on betting sponsors in the Premier League, there seems to be a mad rush, and a number of clubs have signed kind of new deals with nondescript betting companies, Bournemouth being one of them. Honestly, the logo here, BJ88, is a terrible look, and it's funny, they've actually, aesthetically, they have recoloured it to match the shirt, but honestly, betting sponsors, I think, are largely just a frustrating aspect of the modern game. However, if you can put that aside, and it is hard to put aside, this shirt definitely has some strong things going for it. Bournemouth, one of those teams who you know, have a good base to work from. I think having the black and red colours of the team, it opens up options, and I like it actually when they do lean into the gold. I think that adds a lot. Kind of a nice distinction over some other kind of red and black teams, and I think that's like as a colour scheme, it looks good. I like having the stripes framed in the gold, and they're very chunky stripes, but I don't mind that at all. Yeah, less said about the sponsor the better, hey. I don't need to go into that, but yeah, Umbro have actually been doing great, and what's really cool is, you know, we've got full stripes on the back, I believe, a nice back neck detail. Standard badge, but nothing wrong with that. Honestly, I think the shirt is actually pretty good, but the sponsor is definitely a negative. So if I was to rank this shirt, I think I would put this notably higher than the Roma shirt that we just looked at. I don't think I can put it in the Flames tier, and I will blame the sponsor for that, because I think it's one of the most clunky new sponsors we've seen, and ultimately I think it's just a bit of a downgrade on the shirt. But I would still put it quite high in this tier, and this is a pretty strong area of the tier list, to be fair. There are some very good shirts here. There's a gap here. I think that's where I would put the Bournemouth shirt. On the subject of sponsors, Banham says Red Bull 1 suits Leeds. I don't know if it was near Leeds and all. Question is, can Leeds go back up with this new sponsor? Sorry, back up this new season, I should say. That's a tough task. I mean, I've got a lot of friends who are Leeds fans. It's gonna be hard for them. The memes will be there for Bournemouth. It is fair to say. Now we come to Atletico Madrid. Now this is their away shirt. Unless you have had grey or silver shirts like this before, I forget what year it was now. It must have been like 2011, 2012, maybe a bit later. It's certainly a look I can recall seeing. So 2014 there was a grey shirt. Okay, so that was a bit different in 2012. It was the hooped look. But certainly, yeah, it's reminiscent of this shirt. Honestly, I don't think there's, you know, too much going for it. The colours obviously are the main story here. There isn't anything in the way of a pattern in the body of the shirt. We've just got the standard driver ADV. It's funny how they've returned to the old crest here, but they've gone for the monochrome look, the all red, or the red and white, I should say, colourway. Complementary collar and cuffs add to the kit, though they don't really provide too much in the way of an interesting element, given that they are fairly standard. inside no detail, has something going for it, and I'd like to see elements of this perhaps in the body of the shirt. The thing is, if you're going to get if you're going to have a plain shirt like this, I'm looking to things like, can we see a pattern in the body of this shirt? Can we see maybe that back neck element, or that inside neck element I should say, used in other areas of the kit? Maybe like the collar or cuffs. So it's a perfectly reasonable design, but it is largely quite uninteresting. Yes, I think the colour, I don't mind returning to the grey or the silver, and one thing which I do like is when you have these kind of little kind of mini recurring themes in a team's kit history, and I think what's good is 10 years to me is a nice sweet spot. Honestly, if I was a designer, I would look back 10 years and basically I would ask the question, is there something like after that length of time, if we've not seen a colourway, an away kit colourway in that time, then I think there's definitely scope for returning to that. So anyway, I think it's honestly not, I would personally take this over the Roma shirt, which is maybe controversial, but not by much. It's definitely in that kind of range. And I mean, where did we put Roma? We put Roma, see, it's funny, I said I'd take it over that. Yeah, I think maybe in the same region actually. I think if we go somewhere like here, I don't mind it there. Yeah, it is. I mean, dead or saying it's meh. Yeah, I would agree that it's definitely underwhelming. But yeah. Balances, what website was that which has all the past Let's See Away shirts? Ah, that is Old Football Shirts, and I'm a big fan of Old Football Shirts. This is a community-driven site, and there are different sites out there. Footy Headlines have their own version. I really like, this is like my go-to. It doesn't have every single shirt, but especially for the bigger teams, it's quite well kept together, and you just get a very quick snapshot of a team's gear history. And honestly, it's, you know, one thing I like about the site, it loads very quickly. Yeah, it's got minimal ads around it, but it's not too bad. So shout out to, I forget who it is. I believe they're called Phil and Mark. I don't know who they are, but they do a great job running the site or maintaining the site. So yeah, I'm all literally pretty much every stream I'm jumping on this just to kind of get my bearings on what year a shirt was from, etc, etc. And Badham also saying not promoting them. They think Kit's on Twitter, Kit Podcast. They talk about many new strategies. Yeah, they think it's a great, run by a number of members of the community. They do some really good content. They're certainly one of the most active accounts on X and Twitter, and they're really good for that, keeping on top of new releases. And yeah, their podcast is also really good. So I'm sure many viewers have come across them. And if not, definitely worth checking out. A good addition to your football shirt content conveyor belt. Now this is the Juventus away shirt, and it's funny, we had the home. I don't think we've actually ranked the home yet. If not, we will come to it in future. But that one was inspired by the kind of moon landings, or at least the kind of moon, and it looks like their away has gone for a similar theme. I must say, my first impression of this one is that I do think it's a fairly reasonable design. I actually quite like this sort of base look. The colours could be better, but at the same time, reminiscent of Spain's away shirt. It's kind of got that similar pale aesthetic, and I do think actually the little flashes of pink here, it produces an unusual combination, but I don't mind that. You know, small things, but at least the pattern continues on the back. It's nothing special, but I do think that, again, as a base look, what I like about this is that you've still got a sort of a vague striped aesthetic, and I think it's nice to see that this is kind of an alternative take on stripes. They're not you know, distinct stripes, but you can kind of see the effect they're going for, and I don't mind that. I think it's certainly a creative way of doing things. You know, I think, you know, all the blurb about it being inspired by, you know, representing unexplored galaxies, that's just obviously a load of nonsense, but such is marketing speak. Yeah, so I think I think I'd be interested to see this design in other colorways, because I wonder if it would look better. But having said that, again, if we were to jump to Juve's kit history, one thing which of course they've had is yellow kits, and like we talked about that Letty and the grey, every so often, sometimes with keeper kits, but whether it was the gold kit or certainly a couple of yellow kits. So again, I think it's a good choice of colour to go with yellow, and I think having the pink, which of course is a historical colour for Juve, I think there's actually a lot to like about this one. This one is, I think, it's funny. Dale was saying, don't know why this kit is getting hate. I'm a big fan. Yeah, I saw a lot of hate for this one too, and I must admit, I actually think it's sneakily pretty good. In fact, I would easily say this is my favourite kit of the day. And I'm going to sneak this one into the Flames tier. Let's have our first Flames tier entry. Yeah, JPR saying marketing folk are doing themselves this season. I mean, I kind of am one of those marketing people really myself, so I can say this, I think, to my fellow marketeers. Marketeers sounds better. Sounds like musketeers. Yeah, we do know how to spin something. I honestly think I'd put this one here. Well, in fact, we need a few more shirts down here, don't we? Now we've moved it up. Let's go here. Yeah, I mean, I'd take it over the Barca home. Not by much, but that's where I'm thinking. So in our second tier, our Flames tier, which not a bad position there. Oh yeah, the Madrid kit based on the stars outside the Bernabeu. Yeah, that was the away, wasn't it? The orange on JPR. Another classic. Honestly, it's like a pet hate of mine. Yeah, and it really is a bit tiresome, I would say, but that is what it is. Right, let's keep going. Let's keep the momentum. Let's go to Girona. Now, of course, given that they work with Puma, that I believe they are part of the City group. If not, there's definitely some influence there. But with the Puma and the Etihad, and the style of the badge, very much looks like, I didn't know Danny Blint was there. Definitely city vibes, or City group vibes. A perfectly pleasing shirt, and I think the two-tone look, with the pink and the purple, it's a very simplified look, but I don't mind that at all. Yeah, and of all the Puma base styles, the templates, this is one of it's perfectly reasonable. Sadly, Puma are lagging behind the competition when it comes to that. This, I think, is kind of like a mid counter, something in that kind of Atleti range. It's not my personal favourite style. I mean, I think we saw better versions of this sort of broad colourway with the likes of Germany away, and I didn't really like that one too much. Although I must say, on pitch at the Euros, it did look pretty good. But anyway, I would say again mid to high, or sort of mid counter tier feels about right. That is way too big. And if we scroll down, yeah, I think I'd take it just below Atleti and maybe just below Sporting there. Let's go here, and that is the Girona shirt. Oh, shout out for the keeper kit. Now I must admit, I assume that was for the Juve one? Unless I'm missing that. Which one was that, Daredevil? Yeah, anyway, let's continue. Did you want the Hartberg shirt? No, Brock. And I don't know who that is. But let me know for sure. I prefer Girona's kits last year. Yeah, I agree, JPR. I think they were certainly better. Matthew says, now the Bangor shirts, what are your thoughts? Would you change its ranking on the hot wall? Yeah, so that's a great question. The Bangor kit, and if I can find it on the hot wall, I put it up here. I think honestly that is a good position for it. I really do like it. I think it's a really good design. I mean, I've got them behind me here. I'm going to be giving away. I'm drawing the winner for that. I think probably today or tomorrow, to win one of those. And the other will be one through my giveaway, through my Patreon. Sorry. So if you want to have another chance to win the shirt, you can enter or join my Patreon. But yeah, honestly, I think the shirt's great. I love the sponsor there, the quote unquote sponsor, and the crest is great, and the taping. It's definitely Pete Kappa. Big fan of it, I must say. Happy to have picked that up. I'm saying it looks like a keeper get dead. Oh, gotcha. Yes, I can see that. Sorry, I missed you there. Austrian top division. Yeah, it's funny. I feel like a lot of Austrian shirts get missed off this. This is at some point, probably once things die down in sort of October time, we'll do some requests. I think because there are lots of kits which simply don't make it onto football shirt culture, the site that we're using. So that's definitely something which we can look at doing. Is it the team with the many sponsors? Okay, yeah, with the burger on the sleeve. I have come across that one online. Looking at Plymouth, this is honestly a pretty smart design. It's a good formula, right? This is a good formula to have this kind of pattern on the shirt, a sort of tonal pattern which very much maintains the base colour but adds a bit of interest. And I think this is actually quite strong. It's a good look, and you know, one thing which Puma have actually been quite good at over the last few years is creating designs for some of the teams in the Championship or League 1, League 2, so kind of in the English Football League, in the EFL. Honestly, some of their best work has been in those leagues. And this design, I actually think, is a contender for the Flames tier. I probably wouldn't put it quite in the Flames tier. I think we're talking more like a high candle. But I think it's a really good design. And, you know, that sponsor there, I don't know who Classic Builders are, but, you know, certainly nothing too bad there. And, you know, the colours there obviously fitting in completely with the rest of the applications. So it's a good look for Plymouth, from Puma. And, you know, I think it compares well to something like the Roma shirt there. I'd probably put it around that area. There's not many gaps here on this tier list, so we'll just chuck it in there. That's Plymouth. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Balance says Plymouth logo with Wayne Rooney now as manager. Fireface is not the iconic fan. He is indeed. Interesting username he goes by. Well done, Plymouth, staying up last season and all. Indeed. And then the away shirt. Let's see how this compares to the home. The first thing I'm looking for is, do we have anything in the body? And indeed we do have what looks like possibly sublimated ships. Yeah, it looks like it's printed. Honestly, it's a very simple look, but it does look strong. I like the overall look of the design there. I think to really take this one up to the next level, you'd like to see that as an embossed pattern. I think that personally I'd probably prefer that. Although having said that, with the printing you do get a bit more control over the colour of it. So in that sense, yeah, there's obviously pros and cons to either. But I think the shirt honestly looks pretty good. And I'd take the home over it, but not by much. I think it's a really nice complementary set of shirts, to be honest. Yeah, JPS, Classic Builders, CFS branching out into construction. I wouldn't put it past them. They are prolific. Our good friends CFS, and good on them. Why shouldn't they be? Yeah, no, they could certainly. You know, there'll be some unusual territory for them, but you never know. Plymouth away, I think that's again just a shade behind the home. Let's go here. Let's go just, you know, we've had a few shirts in this area, but I do like it a lot. For anyone joining late, we have now effectively removed the brand section. I just think in terms of, well, one, it was a bit time consuming, but also it wasn't the most intuitive, because you did have, for example, some brands with only one or two shirts where the average of that is going to be much different, and I think I just prefer the cleaner look, and obviously we've had that brand section for a while, but I think going forward this will be a bit better. Let's continue, and we're going to come to a very big release, one of the biggest shirts we'll talk about today. I think that is the Newcastle third kit. Now there was a lot of anticipation around this. We saw a lot of rumours and leaks, and I must say I think Adidas have really played to the crowd to great success. Now what do I mean by that? Well, we've seen, if we start with the crest, we've seen a real surge in interest, or surge in the amount of people using retro crests. It seems like this season is perhaps the new high point for that trend, and indeed that's been happening for quite a few years. I would say about 3 years ago we started seeing a bit more of a return to that, but it's really ramped up, and I absolutely love this old crest. It's one of my favourite historical crests for Newcastle, and indeed for any team. And it's it's a bit like that Leeds crest. It's from this kind of, there was this kind of moment in time where you had these heavily kind of stylized, often round but creative like crests, which again incorporated letters in really sort of quite unusual ways. And honestly, this looks fantastic. You see the NUFC. It's just great. I personally think it's fantastic. And you've got the magpie as well. I love how you've got the magpie not only underneath the letters there, but on the back. So some nice shared storytelling. And the other big story, of course, is the colour. This EQT green, or equipment green. Adidas, for a number of teams in the 90s, when they went through their brief but very enjoyable Adidas equipment phase, they used this green for a series of products, whether that was in football or indeed for some leisure wear items. We saw a very similar green in the 1999-2000 shirt, again, which of course the new shirt is heavily inspired by. And you may also recall, for example, the likes of Liverpool, who had a couple of shirts. Again, if we just jump down to the 90s, the 93 shirt, even the green, you could argue, from the 95 was a similar sort of tealy shade. But I think it looks great, and ultimately I think when it comes to this design, again, I love the use of the template. I love seeing, we've seen a number of Adidas shirts do this, different colours for the top panels compared to the bottom. Obviously they've recolored the sponsor well. The collar looks fantastic, and even though it's a one button, which isn't to my personal taste, it's a small gripe because I think the shirt looks fantastic. The sleeve sponsor is an eyesore, and we do have to consider that. If we demoted or penalised the Bournemouth shirt on account of their sponsor, we shouldn't ignore the sleeve sponsor here. But this is a very easy Flames tier inclusion. I think it's a close to 10 out of 10 shirt. I would personally put it quite high on within the Flames tier. I'm a big fan, and again, I think there's enough, like the combination of good decisions here. I would put it as high as, I think it compares with something like the Austin shirt. There's a good gap here. Let's go here for Newcastle. And exactly, JP, Liverpool 90s away kit vibes indeed, and of course the 99 Newcastle shirt had a similar vibe. I just think the colour is such a really nice shade. I saw some people describe it as mint. I think Adidas maybe even put that in a press release. I definitely wouldn't call it mint, or at least if it is, it's a very kind of it's less soft than what I would consider a mint colour to be. But anyway, we won't bother discussing that too much. Almost Volcano Tier to Daredevil, maybe a Volcano Tier. I think for some people it would be. I personally think it's really, really good, and that is the Newcastle third shirt. Now, a similar shade here for Augsburg, and this is a shirt from Mizuno, a brand who we've not seen many shirts from, but they are slowly creeping their way back up into the game, notably working with a few clubs in Germany over the last few years. This is fantastic. Now, again, the shade is kind of similar to that EQT green, but I love well, what I really like about this is that there's the nature of the pattern. We've got an embossed pattern. Now you absolutely love to see this. I bang on about this all the time. Yeah, the shirt is mint dead. Yeah, I can see that. Maybe it is just as simple as that. They're just playing on that. That's fair. That's fair. Honestly, this is just my favourite way to create a pattern on a shirt. The embossed or debossed. I mean, I think technically if it's sunken in, it's debossed. If it's raised, it's embossed. I tend to just call it embossed either way. But that is, again, I just love this style of pattern. And it's funny, it's actually a matte pattern, which is a trend which has kind of come and gone. However, because of the technique used, I think it's a really strong look. And we see, again, collar and cuffs, a tried and tested formula. You know, even with the Atleti shirt we talked about just recently, a similar kind of idea. I really like it. You know, I think in some ways, I'm not sure if we needed the monochrome crest. I think a full colour crest would have worked okay, although the green I'm sure would have clashed slightly with the base of the shirt. So that is what it is. Excuse me, the sponsor's completely fine, but I think this is another Flames Tier shirt, and I wouldn't put it too far behind the Newcastle shirt. I think this is exactly what I was hoping to see more from Mizuno. We saw a bit of this through some of the shirts they'd released in recent years. Again, in particularly in Germany, was it Borkum? I think they worked with, and they had some really good designs. And I think with this shirt here, again, we're looking at some of the good things that we've come to expect from Mizuno in their recent resurgence, particularly in the area of embossed patterns. There are very few brands who are doing better work in that area. I think Macron, you could argue, are kind of leading the way, and certainly Hummel as well have been leaning into that, or more so with Jacquard's Hummel than embossed patterns. But anyway, Augsburg, I think we can go here. Let's go here in the middle. Big fan of the shirt, and hopefully we see more of Mizuno just in the game, and we see a few more clubs. Like I'd love to see Mizuno snap up some of the kind of Castore contracts, for example. But hey, we can but dream. So that was the Augsburg away. What about the Augsburg home? I think my first impression of this one is that it is definitely a step down from the away. I personally much prefer, despite it being a matte pattern, I think that was a little bit stronger. Having said that, there are elements I think which you can enjoy. Certainly this kind of Renaissance pattern, a very popular theme. We saw that, of course, with the Great Italy kits from a few years ago, and Puma kind of ran with that for a number of their top teams. I would say that the general feeling around this particular design is that I honestly wish this was embossed as well. You know, we saw that with the map. If that was an intricate embossed Renaissance pattern, we would be laughing. We would be loving life. But as is, the sublimation is fine. You know, again, it retains some of the detail with this particular style. And I don't mind the diagonal stripes either. The kind of diagonal pin stripes, not my favourite look. And I think ultimately, I think the idea again has some legs, but the execution could have been better. Yeah, and I think personally, I'd like to see a different approach with those pinstripes. I think if you'd have potentially, again, added a bit of, if you're going to have a sublimation like this, maybe introduce some colour in the actual, in the Renaissance pattern itself. But nonetheless, I think we're looking at a mid to high Volcano Tier when all is said and done. With all that being said, I personally do prefer the away. So that'll be my pick if I was to pick up one of these shirts. But let's get it on the board. Hope you're doing well, guys. And again, thank you for those who have tuned in, whether it's on YouTube or on Twitter. Really, really appreciate yeah, you guys hanging out, your support. If you are new and you're watching this, watching Phil's Corner for the first time, please consider subscribing. That would really mean a lot. And indeed, we're going to be hopefully, in fact, I don't think I forgot to say, the plan is, if I can get everything ready, we're going to be streaming on Monday morning UK time, with a bit of a roundup of shirt news, talking about any major new releases, any stories in the shirt world, and that sort of thing. So that should be really fun. Now let's continue with Atalanta's away kit. We've got Atalanta's away and home. And actually, just as we get to that, I'm just going to quickly pause and we'll be back. Just going to refill my water. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Welcome back. As I just resume the setup, let's go. Let's just close that. Cool. Let's continue with Atalanta's away shirt. Now, Atalanta got there eventually. I've had some great kits with Homer. Notably now with the Italian, I believe the coffee brand Latte, who notably worked with Napoli for many years. It's fair to say that dominates the shirt quite a bit in terms of the aesthetic. Despite the bright red, I don't hate it. I think again because it is, despite drawing your attention immediately. Personally, I think especially if you just had that sponsor and not the secondary sponsor, I actually think there would be something about that. But it's fair to say that the rest of the shirt, if we ignore the sponsors, which is hard to do, I really like the style of the shirt. A very kind of classic look. I'm not the biggest fan of the neckline and the collar. That's probably my biggest kind of gripe, and I actually personally would say that's my least favourite thing, even worse than the sponsors. Not a big fan of this kind of look here, but ultimately I think the shirt has again quite a good base style with the horizontal lines there in the two colours, and it's let down by again the sponsors are definitely a negative aspect of the shirt, even though Lette again, or Lette, I'm not sure how you say their name, but they're definitely not bringing much to the table in terms of the visuals. But nonetheless, I think there's still actually quite a few nice things about the style of the shirt, about the base of the shirt. So I think we're looking more like the mid candle tier. Let's have a look. I think we can get something like here for Atalanta. Will the home fare any better? Let's now have a look at that. And it's funny because almost immediately we have a better collar in my mind. I certainly prefer this collar to the away. And you know, full stripes on the front and back, that's important. This is like about as simple as it gets, and yet that is not always a bad thing. I think sometimes, especially with the stripe team, you don't want to necessarily do anything too radical. This is a textbook black and white striped shirt, and it's funny because this is kind of the polar opposite to some of the other kits we'll see, notably the Inter shirt, which is a very daring design in the striped genre. But I think this is pretty good, and I would actually put this one in the Flames tier. Despite the simplicity of it, I personally think as long as you are not necessarily releasing the same design year on year, I think this is again a striped shirt done very well. We shouldn't discount things like stripes on the back, and I think again one thing which I said in my video with Sunderland actually the other week was that with striped teams you're looking to things such as the thickness of the stripes. That's important, you know, how that's done, how the applications sit within the stripes. Those things have been considered, and I think it's led to a really pleasing home shirt there for Atalanta. Now, in order to rattle through, I'm going to keep the train rolling with Versailles, and again, I said I was going to speed things up. I'm still not going quick enough. If we just rank their home shirt here now, I think this is, for me personally, a low Flames tier. I think it's definitely, it's got the hallmarks of this kind of new wave of Kappa shirts, which, though there are, I think it's fair to say there's a bit of fatigue setting in, given how many we've seen in this kind of post-Venezia landscape. But the formula is effective, even if it is somewhat of a trope at this point. So, like I think there are better Kappa shirts, and indeed there will be better ones in this style or within the kind of the new Kappa stable. I forget the name of the agency, the kind of fashion agency or the design agency that are working with some of these Kappa teams. But yeah, in fact, I could probably find out on here, couldn't I? What have we got? Yeah, it doesn't say, but you know, we'll call it the post-Venezia or the Venezia style. I think the away is actually a very interesting complement as well to the home, and this for me is definitely a bit. This is a step above the home, you know, because it's bringing a very interesting look. This kind of pinstripe with the diamonds here. I love the alternate crest. I think this one for me actually is like a notable step up. I like the home, even though it is somewhat of it is falling into a bit of a sort of not typecast, but you know, we kind of know what we're getting from these Kappa teams. However, I think this away shirt is demonstrating a bit more. Yes, you could argue the use of gold is something of a cliche, but I think this is a really strong look. And again, I like the crest. I like this take on a pinstripe design. I think it's definitely bringing us something a bit different to that genre. I'd be very happy putting this as high. I mean, let's go just below Werder Bremen. I think that's kind of where I'm landing. A really strong spot for size. Away shirt. Chelsea's away kit now. The home, somewhat controversial, I'd say, or at least people were somewhat mixed on it. I forget where we ranked that one, or indeed if we have ranked that one, we may have missed that one. I think that may have been during the period we were away. I think it wasn't it? Or it's buried under here somewhere, or I'm simply missing it. Nonetheless, we'll revisit that. Looking at the away, a very interesting colour combo. This is again a great colour name, Guava Ice, which Football Show Culture says is essentially an orange tinged off-white. Hilarious name for a colour. Ultimately, I think it's quite a nice colour, and I think actually in terms of the colourway here, I personally am a big fan. Very, very Dutch vibes, of course, with the orange and the blue and the off-white. I think it's a really, really strong colour scheme. And off-white shades, very popular, but I think for good reason. Honestly, with a better collar, I really hate this Nike collar, but with a better collar, I think this would be an easy inclusion, quite far up the Flames tier. As is with that collar, I'm going to struggle. I think I will put it in the Flames tier, but that is only because I do quite like other elements of the shirt. It really is. I think I just personally hate that collar, the Nike collar. The more I see it, the more I dislike it. However, we're not here just to talk about the collar. I do think the shirt again is a really pleasing combination of colours, and I am a big fan. Even for example, if we look at the crest application as well, I don't mind that at all. I think it certainly adds a nice point of difference. Some of these other styles, some of the kind of more raised, I assume it's like a plastic material. I don't know. I'm not actually. If we have a look here, yeah, it looks like a kind of a raised plastic, but I like that, the kind of shiny look, and it's almost like a gel kind of look. I think it looks really good, and honestly, I'm gonna bump it up slightly. Yes, the collar is there, and it is pain, hurting me. But we do, we had the England kit with that collar there. There were some other ones, and actually, when I compare it to England, I probably like it more than England's kit, to be honest. So you know what? Let's go here. I think actually, in comparison to the other shirts, that feels about right, and that's the Chelsea away shirt. Now, talking of interesting applications, we have the Valladolid shirt, and this has the holographic crest, or the lenticular crest. I'm not sure exactly which technique it is, but you've probably seen the video of the colour changing crest, which is a really fun detail. Ultimately, it's a bit of a gimmick, and I think the shirt as a whole, the design is kind of hit or miss for me. I think we've seen better shirts in this style, where you see the kind of the kind of busy all over kind of pinstripe streaks, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a fun idea for a shirt because, of course, their primary colour's been purple. Well, I assume this is all kind of based on splitting that between blue and red, and obviously that makes purple. There may be a story here of, I'm guessing, based on this, I'm assuming it's a combination of two teams that formed Valladolid. I don't know, but I do like the shirt, but I think it's ultimately the gimmick of the crest. It's very well executed, and I do like it a lot, but I personally think the shirt isn't quite strong enough to feature in my personal rankings anywhere high up the Flames tier. However, I think this is a Flames tier shirt, and I would put it again in this second tier, which has had a few entries today. I think this is kind of towards the back end of this tier, which is not a bad place to be. Not a bad place to be at all. But there are better shirts, I think, this year. I'd go here though. Not a bad place for them there in the Flames tier. That is the Valladolid away. What about their home? Now, I love the purple colour scheme. I think we've seen better versions or better Valladolid home shirts, and I actually prefer when there's a bit more white. It's funny to say, right? I think the balance, dare I say, it's almost a bit too purple. However, it could be argued that that is actually a nice differentiating factor, that unlike kind of many of their shirts, which have been much more balanced in terms of purple and white, this is a much more heavily purple design, and even the shade of purple looks a bit darker, I think, than previous years. May just be the lighting, I don't know. There's a really interesting pattern as well in the purple, which I think adds a lot. So I think this is a really, really strong shirt, but I actually think we've seen better from them. However, I do think this is great from Kappa. I think this is definitely, again, what really sells me here is that what it looks like kind of peacock feathers. I really like this style, this sort of tonal, subliminal pattern. I think it does add a lot to a shirt without sacrificing the kind of the integrity of the colours. And, you know, sure, if it was embossed or there was embossed elements or maybe a jacquard, or the pattern was a jacquard, it would go higher up in my rankings. I still like it though, and I still think this could be, as I say, this could definitely be a shirt which I would see myself even improving its ranking later in the year as we revisit these kits. And we will do that sometime in the year, because there's some already I'm looking at, I'm thinking actually the more I see this, more I think it should be further up. Equally some shirts even in the Volcano tier which I'm like, I'll probably bump down a tier. But anyway, if I did a strong combo between the home and the away. Now we've got some really sweet shirts to come, and I'm going to now cherry pick, and we did this last time, but I think in the interest of time I'm going to go through and pick out some of my favourites or most notable kits to rank, so we can end on some strong kits. We'll go with Malaga. I think we've got to do AC Milan, we've got Napoli as well, those are definitely worth ranking. I think honestly, we've got City and Inter, and I think that will probably do us. If we finish on those shirts, I think. Actually, did we do Sampdoria? I don't think we've done Sampdoria either, so let's do Sampdoria's kits. And we've got Huddersfield Town as well. I think, unless I'm miscounting, we have not done those shirts. Now again, I should have. It's tricky because we are catching up with so many shirts. I apologise if I have ranked on them before. I don't think we have. Let's try this, and we can always revisit. Malaga, lots to be said about what Hummel are doing with Malaga, and I really like the direction here. Quite a progressive look, quite an unusual look to take the to use a kind of, I believe it's like a cubist inspired, so kind of Picasso. I didn't realise he was born in Malaga, but that's just a slam dunk of an idea to tap into that, and I think it's a really effective use of the stripes. It's a very interesting thing as well to see not only the kind of darker blue, but the very pale blue, so you've almost got a kind of like a gradient effect with the stripes. But this is fantastic. I would put this right at the top of the Flames tier. It's not personally a Volcano tier shirt for me, and I can imagine this is perhaps a controversial ranking. I'm sure some of you would have this in your Volcano tier. I've seen a lot of deserved love for this. It's not quite going to crack into the Volcano tier for me though. Having said that, you know, I still think this is a wonderful design, and I love the story behind it, which again is important. At least to me, I like to see good stories, and I think this one deserves a spot right at the top there. Great stuff from Malaga and my boys Hummel. What about AC Milan? Now this shirt, I believe, was inspired by the cricket team, which was a kind of precursor to the to AC Milan. And you can see, I think honestly I would have liked to have seen an off-white look here, something like that Chelsea shirt, funnily enough. I do like the design, but I think ultimately you know, we've already got the kind of cricket whites and this kind of beige look, and I think if it had just dropped in a few, like, just so it wasn't so pure brilliant white, because I think immediately when I think of cricket or certainly test cricket, you think of the off-white shades. Obviously in more recent years we've seen, I say recent, probably even 20 years ago now, when you started to see more kind of pure brilliant white shades of white for test matches, or for the England test team anyway. Nonetheless, I think it's a really smart look, and I do think that again, the idea, there's been some good ideas there. I think that's the thing with a lot of kits today. I've liked a lot of the directions of the kits we've seen, even if the executions haven't always matched the story. I think this is a counter tier. I almost said flames tier. I don't think it's quite flames tier, but I like it around here for the AC Milan away. What about Napoli? Staying in Italy. Now, broadly quite a similar kit to the AC Milan shirt, but there are some differences, and I think this one actually separates itself from that aforementioned Rossoneri design. One thing which is hard to see in these shots, but there is a wonderful embossed pattern on this one, and this is something which I've really enjoyed seeing from Armani. They have definitely stepped up in the last couple of years in terms of their the shirt quality and the techniques that they're using, and this is just a wonderful pattern. Like this will probably surprise you to see, but I think this is an easy inclusion right the way up in the flames tier. It's almost a Volcano tier shirt for me. In fact, the more I look at it, I actually think I probably will put it in the Volcano tier. Perhaps the most surprising addition yet. You know, it's funny how I'm sure 90% of people, or the vast majority of the general public, will just say this is a plain white shirt, but it's not. I think that this pattern is a perfect example of how to create a really strong, simple look where the interest is found in the details. And we've also got the new simplified Napoli logo. Don't mind that at all. This collar. We see collars of this style across many brands, but I do like that, and I do quite like the overall look of the shirt. Again, it's not got anything particularly unique about it, but I just love, like, look at how the light here as it hits the shirt brings out that pattern. That to me is just textbook in refined shirt design. I'm going to put it in the Volcano tier, guys. As I say, I reckon this is our most surprising Volcano tier entry yet, but I honestly have really enjoyed seeing this one. I think this is potentially the peak of Armani's work with Napoli. I think they've turned it around. I've been very impressed when they first, of course, started working with Napoli. We saw, there was all the kind of the significant rumours around them basically just using or basically just being rebadged Kappa shirts, so that was a bit disingenuous, but nonetheless there was a lot of that. But they are carving their own path now, and I really think this is a strong design. I'm not going to stick it too high up in the Volcano tier, but I like it around there, and I think that is a deserved spot for me personally. Would love to get your thoughts on that, but that is where I would land for Napoli. What about City's third kit? Now, this one, honestly, a bit, as has been a theme with, we talked about with Atleti and to a lesser extent Juve, but it's always interesting to see these kind of colours which are not even secondary or even third colours necessarily for a team, but which are kind of brought back every so often. And certainly maroon and gold is a theme we've enjoyed over the years. I've enjoyed over the years anyway, for Manchester City. And if we take a look at their kit history using our good friends Old Football shirts, you can see whether it was a 1990 away, we had shirts later on in that decade, the 2002 third, one of the best shirts of the early 10s I would say was their 2012 away shirt. So I guess you could broadly include this shirt here. But I love it, and I really think it's a good colour scheme. The pattern of the design is somewhat forgettable. I think to me this looks a little bit basic, and honestly, maybe it's a kind of more of a critique on Puma again as a brand. But I think this feels to me like a bit of a throwaway pattern. It's the kind of thing which I assume it's a deconstructed crest or something like that, but I don't think the end result is anything special. It's saved by a really good colour scheme, which again the club have used to great effect over the years, but I do think This is more of a Volcano Tier shirt, which is a shame because I do like again the maroon and gold the City have used over the years. I think it is a good look, a good scheme to go for, but I'm going to place this one high on the Volcano Tier, high in the Volcano Tier, but not high enough to be challenging some of the shirts we've talked about previously. I think maybe even here, to be honest, feels about right for City and their third shirt. Let's continue. We've got a few more teams now. The Inter Milan home shirt. Now, I don't think we ranked this one, did we, last time? Because yeah, this was just after. So Inter have had, it's fair to say, one of the most creative, interesting journeys for striped teams. Of all the kind of classic striped teams, particularly in Italian football, they have been, I think, the most daring and largely to good effect. I've enjoyed a lot of their output. I've enjoyed seeing how Nike have played with the stripes in very creative ways. Now, certainly, if you're a purist, if you're someone who likes their striped kits to be striped, then Inter are probably not the team for you. But of course, we're not just looking for creativity for creativity's sake. Is the end result actually strong? I think there are elements I like about this, but it's certainly not one of my favourite Inter shirts of their recent history. And that speaks, I think, more to the fact that I really like a lot of their recent shirts. I mean, if we just look here, of course, we don't have all the latest kits, I don't think. But if we take a look at, for example, so we had, again, a couple of years ago, the very classic 2022 shirt. The 21 shirt was not to my taste. I think if the darker portions were more black, I would have warmed to it a lot more. But there was a fantastic run, particularly the 2019 and 2020 home shirts were two of my favourite shirts of the past 10 years across any team. I loved these two kits. Now this one doesn't reach those heights, but the new shirt I should say, doesn't reach those heights. But I do think, again, seeing it with the shorts here, I mean, we talked about this with Nike and their France away kit and the bespoke shorts. Certainly one of the most interesting shirt-shorts combinations. And of course, Dazzle Camo, it evokes the kind of Dazzle Camo designs which you've seen over the last few years. Ultimately, it's not my favourite. I do think they've slightly overcooked this one. And it's, you know, I'm appreciating that we have, again, one thing which Inter are very insistent on is straps on the back. And despite the kind of craziness of the half and half and the Dazzle Camo on one side, or the Dazzle Camo-esque design on one side, yeah, that doesn't do enough to save it. I think this one for me it's probably like a high Volcano Tier. Ultimately, I do really think the partnership is a good one between Nike and Inter. But I can't really put this one much higher than the high Volcano Tier. It's certainly a memorable design, and I think one thing I would fully expect is next year to see a slightly more classic Inter design. It would not surprise me to see that. So I hate to say it, it's funny how we've just landed next to AC Milan. I think I would put it just below. They're two very different shirts. This year, and I've not said this for many recent years, I would put the AC Milan one slightly above, at least in the home shirt category. But honestly, I'm excited. I'm always excited to see new Inter kits, and I think this one is certainly, again, a creative addition to the pantheon of Nerazzurri kits. Let's finish with Sampdoria and Huddersfield. So if we start with the Sampdoria, I mean, we've got the third shirt here. We can do this as a collective. We talked about a kind of Renaissance pattern with the Augsburg kit. Well, it's here in full force as well, this kind of style with the Sampdoria shirts. Of course, with Sampdoria, you know you're going to get the wonderful bands across the chest, or at least 9 times out of 10 you are. Really interesting use of the turquoise, or it looks like a turquoise shade for the Macron logo and the trim here. You see on the cuffs as well. Not sure exactly the story there. Ultimately, I think this is a really it has that really kind of nice lavish feel to it. I think that's the thing with these kind of Renaissance patterns. They definitely add a certain kind of decadent feel And I think that's often quite attractive, and it certainly matches, I think, when you think of Sampdoria, you think of and Italian football in general. It feels quite fitting. Shame to see a plane back, though it's not uncommon. And I think really this one then does come down to the execution of this pattern. And I'm not sure exactly. It looks like it may be. It's either embossed or sublimated, and I can't actually tell. I think it may. Or is it a jacquard? I think it is just sublimated. But again, we'd have to confirm that, which would definitely be a step down compared to, for example, an embossed or jacquard pattern. But having said that, I would still put this one in the Flames tier. I think it has enough going for it in terms of, again, this wonderful base Samp style. I do like the crest, and they've used this, I think, for most, if not all, of their recent third shirts. This alternate crest, which I personally do quite like as well, even though the home Sampdoria crest is very nice. I think it compares well to something like that Cambridge shirt here. Let's go here for Sampdoria third. How does the away and home compare? Well, we've got the away here, and I said that you'd expect bands across the centre of the shirt. Well, of course, another theme which Sampdoria have employed is the vertical stripes. I forget what they call the stripes now. It's the Blucacciati. Apologies for my pronunciation. And it's a nice way to distinguish the shirt. I think from memory, most of the away shirts, or at least most of the times I've done this style, has been with the away shirts. And I like the overall look of it. It's confusing to see it with the shirt underneath there. We kind of don't want to see that, do we? To confuse us. I think in terms of the kind of choice of gold, I'm not really a big fan, even though it does help tell the story. And I think that's the one thing we can see, a kind of cohesive design story, a design language across the kit so far. And if we just have a sneak preview of the home again, you've got the same idea with the Renaissance pattern. So I think ultimately this collection of kits is actually quite it's as effective as a tandem, as a set of three, I should say. And even though the gold isn't personally to my taste, actually it does help tell that story, which I think is important. So this one I would probably land somewhere still in the Flames tier, but not quite as high as the away. I think we're talking more like the border of the second and third tier. And it is a strong couple of kits already from Macron. I don't mind Sampdoria. I mean, if we go here, that feels pretty good. Yeah, let's stick a shirt down there. Why not? And then we finish off with the home. Now, in terms of the pattern, looks to be the same pattern as the third, but only on the top of the kit, which is an interesting decision. I think personally I prefer the third, and the other thing which is a negative for me, we've seen this style of collar for many Macron kits now for quite a few years. Even I think there's a couple, like we've got it on the Arminia shirt here, Bielefeld, and there's other shirts, and we talked about it when we reviewed that shirt, how we've seen this style of neckline now for several seasons for Macron. So I kind of think we've seen enough of this. I think we need to update that look, I would argue. But nonetheless, of course, Sampdoria shirts, the floor is extremely high, and this adds some pleasing elements on top of that very strong floor. Even though the back is broken up, which sadly is a kind of modern reality in the shirt world. And I'll be interested to compare this if we had this pattern on the bottom. I don't know if I'd like that more or less. It certainly does add an interesting kind of contrast. I think my gut tells me that I'd like to see it on the bottom as well, but nonetheless, I think we can rank this one for the third time, 3 out of 3 in the Flames tier. And I would put this one in between the home, in between the away and the third. So if the third's here and the away's here, that leaves us with a very slim area here, a very slim margin to rank the kit. But I will put it in between there. And a very strong set of kits. I would have no qualms about anyone ranking any of these shirts much higher in their rankings, but I like it around here in the tier. Now I've just realised something, guys, and it's actually taken me a long time to see this. My chat facility, or the chat window that I was looking at, stopped updating ages ago, and it's only just refreshed, and I'm very sorry because I've missed a lot of comments. So sorry, particularly to all of you guys like Aidan, Ian, Connor, who have joined in, and I've not responded to you. So I'm going to do that now. And I do apologise because again, that is a failing of OBS here, and it's just updated. So thank you for those who have contributed. I wasn't ignoring you, it simply wasn't showing up on my screen. So let's get to your comments now, because there's quite a few to get through. And I am going to read them because I want to make this point of that. JP asks, oh wow, this was like what, half an hour ago, maybe longer. I do apologise, guys. JP says, great to see more Mizuno. They're doing a fair bit of the Japan Olympic gear. They are indeed. I wonder if it can be brought sponsorless. Now this is a challenge of memory now. I assume we're talking about Augsburg, or at least if it was Mizuno, it was Augsburg. One of the best Nike kits for Chelsea. I like it as well, Daredevil. Just hate when hate what they are going with the crest. Haven't seen Chelsea with their regular crest in like 2 years. Yeah, definitely controversial. Sorry, Chelsea fan here. Couple have been doing quite a damn with Rider the last few years, says JPR. Ian, afternoon Ian, you were far too nice about Chelsea. We're much further Rider shirt. Yeah, I know you're not partial to an off-white shirt, Ian, or a white shirt. I recall that. Dale said just as the Cab logo was two-toned. Do we do that often? Not often, I don't think. We've seen it once or twice, but not often. Adis's tan away kit is lush. Yeah, we'll get onto Town's shirts very soon, and I do agree. Dale says Phil forgot about the chat. I effectively did, and again, that's a real failing of mine to not notice that. And I did think it was quite quiet, but I was happy to power through, but yeah, nonetheless, I do apologise, guys. Ian says Malaga shirt is Volcano hot. I completely see that. It just missed out for me, but I hear you. JPR concurs. I think he's just trying to get through the shirts. Well, it did kind of work out like that, but yeah, at the same time, I wouldn't want to ignore you guys. You guys made the stream. JPR says from Loud reminds me of the very early 90s European Cup shirt. Yeah, I hear that. Collar is quite exquisite. Says Daredevil. Volcano Tier app for Napoli. Indeed, JPR, indeed. Yep, we like that. And Connor says colour scheme is nice, just a lot of their shirts are the same. City in the third tier. Feed the goat. Those were the days. Honestly, fond memories of when Sean Gator. I didn't go to many Southend games in my time, but that's my hometown team. And I did go to Sean Gator's last professional game, and that was a memorable moment for me when I saw a bunch of City fans make the journey down to Essex. And that honestly left a good impression of me of again the City fans who were their commitment, their love for Sean Gator, that was cool. Ian says Sendo Nice reminds me a little of the black paisley St. Moon shirt. Yep, I definitely see that. And Aidan, all good, chief. No harm, no foul. Guys, thank you again. And I do want to say, as I said before, your contributions really are appreciated. So perhaps we did get through more shirts actually because I wasn't responding to chat, but thank you. Let's finish with Huddersfield Town's away and third kits. Now, I was at a wedding last weekend and caught up with some friends who are massive Huddersfield Town fans, and I mean, I live in Huddersfield. I might even pop along actually to the John Smiths tomorrow for the pre-season friendly. Actually, said friends invited me along to that. I think they're playing Sheffield United, so I might pop along for a bit of pre-season action tomorrow. But nonetheless, I hope to see some of these away shirts at the stadium because I really like this. A very clear reference to I forget which year it was now, but it is the late 90s. Where are we? Okay, so 1993, third from Mitre. I love this colour combination. I think it's really, really effective. And the great thing about a shirt like this is that the colours are strong enough that you don't need to do much else. Yes, we like to see subliminal patterns, embossed patterns, but you know, I think the combination of those two, well, the navy with the teal and the yellow, it's a great combo. Not a combo you see often. I think, you know, you look at it here, it looks good. There's the old shirt, of course, for reference. You know, I'd probably like to see a bit more of the kind of piping, honestly, or the sort of taping style. I wouldn't hate to see that. I think that probably would be a strong addition, but nonetheless, it is a very good shirt. It's a very attractive colour combination and a very well executed design, I would say, from Umbro. And this is typical Umbro. They have been excellent, I think, this year, and this is no exception. Aidan says, it's so good, feels new, Baz nod to the old, two-top kits for town, home and away. I would agree, and I mean, I really like the home. I put it as high as here. This is not going to be far down. I think, you know, the one knock I think you could say is that this is, and something with a phrase we've used before on the channel, nostalgia bait. It is a bit kind of like tapping into that nostalgia unashamedly. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think ultimately you have to judge a kit on its merits, right? Is this shirt good? Yes. The fact it references an old shirt is not a bad thing, as long as you don't keep doing that and get stuck in a kind of loop. But I think honestly this feels good around here. I really like it, and I mean, a great combo of kits for town. Look into the third shirt, and we'll finish with this kit now for today. I think this one isn't quite there for me. When I was talking with my friends about this, I kind of said this reminds you of something like you'd see on like a craft beer, like an IPA can, or that sort of thing. It has that kind of like, it's got the busyness, and I think quite an interesting idea. It's, you know, I believe elements of the stadium, and it's an anniversary of when the new stadium was, the current stadium was first opened. But it's definitely not my go-to look. I think it could have been a little bit less literal. I mean, if you're going to go for this style, I'd probably prefer it, say, on the sleeves of the kit, or maybe if you just sort of broke up the pattern a little bit. I believe it's probably plain on the back as well, which is again a real shame. You know, red and black as a colour combo, obviously memories of some of the, well, Town have used it for quite a lot, most famously with the crazy Gola kit from the early 90s, and there were of course even recent nods to that with the third kit here. So red and black, you know, it's a go-to look for Town. It's not my personal favourite style, but what I will say is that across home, away and third, again, you're covering some nice bases. What's good is, and I say this all the time, but if you have a more refined home and or away shirt, the third, you've got more license to do something with a third shirt, which is a bit more daring. You know, in a year when you had a slightly more progressive or out there home shirt, this shirt would land worse. And I think even though I'm not a big fan of this look, in context with the other shirts, I think it has its place. It fulfills a nice role. When you're going to release 3 kits in a year, I think there's something to be said about, well, you know, either you position your kits so much so that you have something which is a bit more classic, something which is a bit more daring, or you tell a sort of unified story across the three. I think as long as you commit either way in that direction rather than a kind of halfway house, I think this works. And this definitely, I think this collection for town, or this third shirt particularly, lands in a nice spot when you've got a bit more of a sort of classic home and a very retro nostalgic away. I don't mind seeing this approach, even though it's not to my taste. So I'm going to stick it down in the counter tier, and I probably would put it actually fairly kind of mid of the counter tier. So I do like it a lot less, but that's not to take away from the good work that Umbro are doing. Yeah, it's funny you said that, Aidan. Magic Rock, that's exactly what I said as well about this kit to a friend. I almost wondered if Magic, because obviously Magic Rock, a local brewery, I say obviously, for those who are from or know Huddersfield, I almost wondered if they'd been involved actually in the design. Not enough conscious on the red and black. Yeah, I hear you. I think other combos, other colour combos would have looked better with this sort of pattern. I understand why they've gone for the style, but yeah, not to everyone's taste. But guys, that is the hot wall, and I want to say thank you again, especially for your well, the fact that I was basically ignoring chat for like a third of the stream there, if not more. But thank you nonetheless for your contributions and for your time, and of course for those who have been watching on X and Twitter as well as YouTube. Thank you. And we had a lot of shirts to talk about today. We got through a decent chunk. Not many highly rated shirts, but there were some highlights. Notably, I really like Napoli's shirt. That's again a somewhat surprising addition, but I think that is a really strong look for the team. But Malaga as well, high up there. And of course, excuse me, as we just looked at with the likes of Huddersfield and the Airway shirt, also very strong. Thank you, Aidan. Cheers to you, my friend. And thank you, everyone. I hope the fan hasn't been too loud, because it has been fairly loud on behind me, but it's been keeping me cool nonetheless. Any final questions? I'm happy to answer them as we begin to finish the stream. But thank you guys for your time. Thank you for hanging out. And look forward, again, all being well, Monday morning. For those in the UK, you may be able to tune in. The thinking is to do something as early as 8 o'clock. I'll see how we go. Yeah, kind of this week in shirts. A roundup of the latest shirt news, other stories which you need to know, and giving my take on the latest proceedings. So that is coming up hopefully on Monday, if not this Monday, the Monday after, but a third show in the week. So again, we already have the eBay show on Tuesday evenings, this show on Thursday, so a third stream, hopefully ultimately just more content for the channel. And there's still going to be full Phil's Corner episodes as well. They aren't going anywhere. Unfortunately, because they just take so much time particularly to edit, I can't do as many of them as I would like, given my other commitments. But they're still going to be happening. But the third stream week should help keep the channel lively. Ian says, "I'm doing good work with Huddersfield. Just got last season's third shirt. Nice, Ian. Yeah, I honestly think Umbro in general have been really strong, and obviously this year I think they're getting a lot of deserved plaudits. But it's great, you know. I mean, in terms of like, for a team like Huddersfield to get that sort of treatment, and this is of course typical of a brand like Hummel, or indeed of Umbro, but you can include Hummel in that. Macron, these kind of tier 2 or tier 3 brands who don't have the brand name of an Adidas or a Nike or a Puma, but unless you're in the top kind of, you know, top tier of those brands, you're not often getting much in the way of bespoke treatment, if at all. So someone like an Umbro are perfect for a club of that. Again, well, not to be honest, I was going to say in Championship or League One, even the Premier League. To be honest, like I think if you look at something like teams like Leicester or Nottingham Forest, when they get their Adidas designs, they're ultimately not much more than slightly tweaked templates. Yes, they're more bespoke, or you tend to have slightly more bespoke elements, but you're still not getting the best that you could be getting. Yes, you get arguably better distribution and things like that, and there's something to be said about that. But yeah, it's a great time to be with Umbro. Same with Macon, same with Hummel. I think those three are the three that jump to mind. I think those are kind of performing the best, if you can say that, I would say. Right, thank you guys. Thank you again. Thank you for your patience, or your kind of bearing with me not seeing the chat updating. And thank you again to those on X and Twitter, X/Twitter. I still call it Twitter, so I don't think that habit's going to go away anytime soon. But it's been great to have good numbers of people watching that, and I think the way that the X kind of count here on the bottom left is working is that it is obviously that's not active viewers, so I can't seem to get that number. Maybe there is a way to do that. It would be good to get kind of live numbers. I think that would be pretty more useful, because of course that's what we've got on the YouTube side. But anyway, that's a separate point. Thank you guys. Good to hang out. I will see you, hopefully some of you on Monday, and if not Tuesday and Thursday, or elsewhere, wherever I am about. See you very soon, guys. Take care. All the best.